Hi, I'm Nicholeen Peck, parenting expert, and I'm joined here today with April Orgel from the Davey and April channel. I don't know if or is it the April and Davey channel?
It's April and Davey, but it works both ways. It's fine.
Sorry, I totally blew that. From the April and Davey channel. And we are going to be talking today about how to set up healthy boundaries with your child. Today we're going to talk about some of the things that have been going on in April's family, and we're going to talk about some of the common boundary problems that people might be experiencing, and then how you can handle these boundary problems by setting up some healthy boundaries so that your family knows what to do. April, I am so excited for you to be here today. This is actually the first time I've had a guest.
Well, I'm honored because honestly, she's one of my heroes because our family was really struggling 7-8 years ago, and my husband was being the videographer at something she was speaking at, and he was just like, we need this in our house. We need this. This will fix a lot of our problems if we do this. And he bought her book. He brought it home. We read it, and it's changed our whole family dynamic. It's changed our lives. And so when you reached out to me, I was so excited to be here.
Yeah, and I reached out to her because she was setting boundaries on her channel. She was showing people on her channel what it looks like when you set boundaries at home. So she was telling people, hey, I've taught my children some skills. And a friend of mine from over in England sends me a quick message like, hey, did you know these people are talking about you on their channel? And I was like, oh, that is so cool. And so we got to talking and decided it would be fun to do one of these together. So I'm so excited. So how many children do you have?
I have 6. The youngest is 1 and the oldest is 14. And so I'm in the thick of all the things with family life. So we see it all. We see all the things, and
that's every stage.
Absolutely amazing to see. That's absolutely what I love about the way you've set everything up, is because it's not just for little kids. Because I remember doing a different parenting technique, and it was like they could outgrow the techniques. And it was really hard because I would play the little game or do the little thing, and I have an energy drain, so I don't have enough energy to go do this. Well, eventually they were like, I don't care. They kind of grow out of the game. And so the genius thing about what you've put together for everyone is it lasts forever. And even if you're an adult, you can go back and learn these things. Like, this is not just for parenting. It's for self-governing, which teaching self-government is for every human, not just teaching your kids. So you can really learn a lot yourself from this stuff.
Yeah. So what are our boundaries, right? Are we going to get angry?
Well, because we do have to set healthy boundaries in
for
order
ourselves.
to be a functioning, happy human adult. So
totally.
Totally.
That was a boundary I had to decide for me. Am I going to say that thing that's popping into my head that's so mean and vicious to my husband or to my foster child? No, I'm not going to.
Yeah.
And so what am I going to do instead? What am I going to replace it with? And that's the healthy boundary, right?
Right.
So first, let's talk a little bit about, I don't want to put your family on the spot too much, even though pretty much you're public. Pretty much your channel is public, which is why I invited you on. I'm like, oh, she'd be happy to talk about anything with me.
Yeah, we talk about some things.
So what are some boundary issues that maybe you've experienced in your home or that you've seen other people experience that you feel like are common boundary problems that people run into?
Well, I feel like teasing. There's a lot of teasing that can kind of go on, or like you said, just saying that thing that if you really had the healthy boundary set up in your mind, you would choose not to say, or going into someone's room when don't have permission and maybe grabbing that stick of gum. There's just a lot of little things that happen with 6 kids in that age range. Like, the little ones are usually going in the big kids' rooms to see what kind of good stuff they got in there. And it's just, that's a boundary that you need to set. And And really, without those boundaries, it's chaos.
Yeah, well, because basically what we're talking about is impulse control.
Right.
So when you don't cross over a line, you're choosing to control your impulses or to at least check them before you choose to take action. This is what self-government is, right? So self-government is being able to determine the cause and effect of any given situation and possessing a knowledge of your own behaviors so that you can control them, which means that you're deliberately deciding what thoughts, what cravings, what emotions that you are going to use and act on and what are going to get in the way of your progress, right? So if I see a stick of gum and I must partake, then I am having bad impulse control, right? Especially if it's not mine, right? So that's the boundary line. Where's that line there? It's nope, you can't just take that because it belongs to somebody else.
Right.
There are some other things that people will say to me, and I don't know if you've seen this in your house when it comes to boundaries, but one child may be bossing another child.
Oh yeah, we have some bossing going on.
It's a normal thing.
And I probably could use some coaching on this because I'll look at the kid and be like, just remember, you're not the mom. I'm the mom. Like I define that boundary and I say, if you have a problem with that, you can disagree appropriately with them or you can come to me and I can help you out with it. But just bossing them, it's not going to help the situation because then they're just going to fight with you and then it's chaos.
And I love that you're going back to a really concrete truth. It's identity, right? In the family. What are my roles?
Yes.
My role is mom. That means I have to do the teaching and correcting of so-and-so. And even though you're trying to be helpful, it's not your role. Right?
I tell them all the time, I get to give criticisms to you because that is my job. But they don't need to hear you criticizing them. They're your little brother, little sister, whatever. But
well, and as an adult, I have to remind myself occasionally, ooh, so-and-so at the store is having a problem with their child. I don't even know who they are, but are they ready for me, stranger, to come in? No, there's a boundary line there, right? Where I'm not going to go and tell them what to do with their child. And the same, if the audience isn't ready, you can't deliver whatever it is that you want to deliver. And so you do have to keep in mind who you are with the other people that you are around. I think that's a really key thing. So let's talk about some of the specific things that we can do that you've done in your family and what I've done in my family to help set up some of those healthy boundaries for adults and for children, because everyone needs the healthy boundaries. And if we know who we are, we can determine where our boundary lines are. So what are some of the things you have done? Like some of the things that have been big to help your children not cross over certain lines? Have you given them skills?
Absolutely. So the basic life skills that we've taught them, we talk about them almost every week, really sometimes every single day, because when they forget to do one, I remind them. But the basic structure of it, you have to teach them what they are first and how to do them. So in a family home evening or just family meeting, whatever we do, we got a big bucket of like toys and candy just from the dollar store or Walmart, cheap things, but they were excited about them. And we just said, like, printed off the life skills. There's 4, right?
There's 4 basic skills. Yeah.
Right.
Following instructions.
We always can't decide if accepting a criticism and accepting a no answer are joined or their own.
They're joined. They're joined. But,
Okay, so
I mean, you can use
5.
them separately, of course. Yeah, but they're the same.
So we printed it off and we said, memorize one of them and the steps, and you get to pick something out of the prize jar. And prize bin. They were so excited that it was like, okay, I'll memorize those. And then as soon as we knew that they knew them, then we could really start implementing them. If they started doing something, if someone said something to them and then they started being rude and like yelling at them, oh, just now you got a no answer and you didn't accept the no answer or ask to disagree appropriately. You remember the steps to that, and then you really get into where you can have them check themselves and be like, oh, okay, yeah, that was a no answer. Because they don't really recognize it as a no answer. Someone didn't walk up to them and say, no. Someone just did something they didn't like. And so it's a lifelong journey, really, to learn how to accept these no answers. I sometimes find myself not accepting no answers, right?
No,
Still.
right. Someone cuts you off in traffic. You've got to remember who you are, who they are, that it's okay, that you can accept a no answer. So let's talk about quickly. There's 4 steps to accepting a no answer. So you look at the person, you keep a calm face, voice, and body. You say okay, or you ask to disagree appropriately, which is a whole other skill.
Right.
That you can use if you need to. And then you drop the subject, which means if you're driving in traffic, they cut you off, you keep calm, you go, okay, that happened. And then you don't think about it anymore. You don't talk about it. You don't give hand signals.
And really, all you're doing is saving your own sanity, because they're probably not even realizing they did it, honestly. And it's not.
I mean, sometimes yes. But,
sometimes, but.
Yeah, but is it worth getting worked up over? And see, I think that's the thing, is when you're setting a boundary for yourself, you're thinking, I have an angry thought right now, but do I want to cater to that? Yeah. And I love what you're saying, and this makes me so happy. I just love it when people do such a good job. Okay, so I'm so happy that you pre-taught things like you did. So that you took your family, you set them aside, because this is what I recommend to do, and that you pre-teach all of these skills.
Right.
And because you did that, then in the moment you can say, remember, there's a boundary here.
Right.
Remember, this is a no answer. And they know what that means, no answer. And so then you can just pre-teach, oh, this one's going to be a no answer. Don't cross over that line at grandma's. Don't take the food before it's time. You know, whatever it is, because those are all boundary lines, right? Don't touch people that don't want to be touched, you know, or whatever those things are. There's so many different boundaries that are there. But if you pre-teach it ahead of time, then you have vocabulary, ideas to hold on to, so that you can be self-governing, so that you can make decisions for yourself. All right, so April, a lot of people come looking for the teaching self-government parenting system because they don't want to have all the contention that's going on in their home. And we've been talking about boundary issues and setting up healthy boundaries, right? And we mentioned one of those is a calmness boundary.
Right.
Yeah.
That I put on myself and my husband puts on him.
Yeah, so how has that helped you?
We don't want to yell at the kids. Like, you yell at the kids, maybe they listen, but then you feel terrible. You feel yucky. You're like, crap, I suck. And it's not.
Well, you're disconnected.
Yeah,
you actually get disconnected.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's actually a really funny story. The first time we really utilized this and it worked, and we were like high-fiving each other in the car and like singing at the top of our lungs. The Hit Me With Your Best Shot song came on because one of our children, this is years and years ago, he did not love the boundaries we were setting up in our family. When we first started doing this, there was a lot of pushback, and it was like, I'm going to do everything I can in my whole power to make this not happen.
He was probably strong-willed.
He did not like you at all.
That's okay. I can take
and
it.
I said he, because now you probably know who it is. But now the blessings that have come from teaching him are, I could go on and on about that. But I remember the day so clear because he was just throwing things, ripping things, like chaos. And we both just went, that's sad, because that's really sad. You'll have to pay for it when you calm down, you know. We'll deal with that later.
You didn't engage.
No, we were like, okay.
Yeah.
You know,
and a person who power struggles is used to somebody engaging. They feed off of that.
Normally I would have been like, what have you done? Because there was like some very valuable property that was damaged. But we both just went, okay. You know, got in the car and we drove to the thing we were going to do and came home. And a few weeks later, the consequences were still in place, calmly. And as soon as that kid realized, oh my gosh, they're not going to break. They're not going to scream at me. They're not going to freak out. How am I going to fix this? He started thinking of things he could sell in order to raise the money to pay for the thing so that he could have his privileges back. And he ended up selling Christmas presents.
Wow.
And it was so, like,
he
that's
took
really
responsibility.
when I saw the change happen, where it's like, so if you're in the thick of it and you're getting the pushback, keep going and stay calm. It's so important. It's the only way they can really get to the place where they like, okay, well, how can I fix this now? And so, yeah, I mean,
that calmness is key. So key. And with your family being, I mean, you do so many things as a family, right?
Yeah.
You're a super active family. You're a YouTuber family, right? You do so many things on there. I would imagine being able to be calm and being able to have these skills makes it so that you can do all the things you can do even better.
Right. It does help. And we have to be in the public eye sometimes, like conventions and stuff where we're all on stage together, and it's happened in like people are like, how did you get your kids to behave for that long on stage? And they're not always perfect. Sometimes they mess up, but
They're children.
yeah, they're kids. But
Yeah.
but the skills that we've taught them have benefited us in those situations so much because they understand how it is appropriate to behave, and they understand that if they choose to behave badly, there are consequences that will actually be followed through with. And I think that was one of our biggest stumbling blocks when we were first young parents, is that we would just say something horrible, scary to the kid just because.
Try to intimidate.
Oh, if you do that, you're going to get this. And then like, okay, or 1, 2, 3, you're counting, and it's like nothing ever really happened because as soon as they stopped the behavior, we kind of would forget about it. And I remember my little 3-year-old, way back when, she looked at me in the car after I said something, and she goes, "You will forget that you said that." And I was like,
My children would say,
probably
"You got roasted."
Yeah.
You
and I
got
was like, she's
busted.
right. We need to be better.
Very interesting. From the mouth of babes, right? From
You
the
will
mouth
forget
of
that you said that.
Yeah, it won't happen, Mom. You
Okay.
just say stuff and you went, "Oh no." We've
Yeah.
got to fix that situation. So consistency is key, but it's hard to be consistent if you don't have the skills. But now you've got some skills that you're
Right.
using, you're putting in place with the family, seeing some good results, and you're not power struggling anymore. Because when you make those threats, that's just power struggling.
is.
That's all it is. And so
Oh,
many
yeah?
people
Let's
get in the
see.
habit of 1, 2, 3. That's a power struggle to try to help a child to obey a boundary, to not cross a certain line, that kind of thing. By the way, you need to know, and your child needs to know, I'm okay being hated for a while. I always tell people that I'll be the fall girl. It's okay. There was this girl that came up to me at a conference one time, and she said, "Nicholeen," she said, "Are you Nicholeen Peck?" And I said, "Yes, I am." And she said, "You've ruined my life."
It was a kid.
She was like 15. And I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. What was your life?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, I used to be able to just sit in my room and listen to my music and not have to talk to everybody. But no, now our family has to be united. Now we have to like each other. Now we have to talk to each other." And she was, and I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry that I ruined your life that you had, but it sounds like you might have a pretty good one coming on." And she said, "No, I'm just kidding." She said, "For years, for like probably a good, year or two, I dreamt about telling you that, but actually my life's good and I'm really happy."
My oldest now, he will tell you, like, I thought life was so bad, but like life's pretty good. Like,
Okay, so this brings us to a super good point, which is that actually they want boundaries.
they do.
No, they want boundaries.
They don't know that they want them, but they're in self-destruct mode because they thrive in structure. They thrive when they know what's coming, they know the rules, and they are ready to make the choices based on what they know is actually really going to happen. It changes everything. And
Totally.
it's I can't even tell you, it has been such a blessing in our lives. So I'm so grateful to you for putting this in a place where it's easy to access and easy to understand. It's 4 rules, you guys, like 4 skills. Anyone
Well,
can
there are
master
some parent
those.
skills too, but the children
really,
have 4. Yeah.
Like, you can teach that to someone. My 3-year-old was doing this stuff and memorizing these steps and getting stuff out of the prize bin.
Love that.
So it can be done, and it's amazing. So thank
Totally
you.
can be done. Any age. Totally. Oh, April, it's been so great having you here. I want to give everybody who comes here something really special. I want to give you a class on calmness. So the next video that I highly recommend that you watch is a video all about calmness. We've talked about so many great things about boundaries here. There is that boundary line between calmness and anger that we don't want to be crossing. So the next video you really ought to watch is one called How to Be a More Calm Parent. So click that link and watch that one, right?
We will be clicking on that link.
Yay, great.
I think everyone needs that.
Everyone does need that for sure. Thank you, April, so much for joining us. It has been fantastic to have April Orgel from April and Davey channel. Go find their family, super fun to watch.
Thank you so much.